On Tech News Today, the Apple Watch battery probably won't last a day as advertised. Plus, a journalist has been sentenced to over 5 years in prison, mostly for sharing a link. And the Winklevi are back in the news and creating the NASDAQ of Bitcoin. It's all coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, January 23rd, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron will send you all the ingredients to cook fresh, delicious meals with simple step-by-step instructions right to your door. See what's on the menu this week and get your first 2 meals free by going to blueapron.com/twit. That's blueapron.com/twit. And by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used iPhone, iPad, and other Apple products are worth at Gazelle.com. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Elgan. Christina Warren is off today. So let's jump right into this exciting news from Mark Gurman at 9to5Mac. He reported that battery life might be a problem for the Apple Watch, and he's joining us now. How are you doing, Mark Gurman?
Good. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. Now, you reported sources that are spilling the beans on Apple Watch battery life. What are they telling you?
Yeah, so what we're hearing is that the battery life is not going to beat any records. It's not going to be much better than the existing watches on the market. They're shooting for 19 hours of combined use throughout the day, which combines like active use and keeping on your wrist without using it. We're hearing that it will be able to run just on a clock face at 60 frames per second for about 3 to 4 hours. Which means that you can combine throughout a day, look at the clock for 3 or 4 hours, and it will still work. No one's really going to stare at the watch face for 3 hours because the watch, when it's not in use, when it's just like sitting on your arm, the screen uses the different sensors like the accelerometer motion sensor to keep the display off. So we're also hearing that intense app usage like games or video apps or anything that requires a lot of power, you can go for up to 2.5 hours straight. Light app usage or regular normal usage, about 3.5 to 4 hours. The exercise, which you're showing right now, will work for 4 hours straight. So if you want to exercise for 4 hours on a single charge, you'll be able to do that.
Now, is this partly the result of the possibility that Apple kind of went too far with the performance? I mean, it's a high-performance device with a retina-quality screen that refreshes at 60 frames per second. Isn't that overkill for a watch? Shouldn't they have sort of dialed that down to boost battery life?
You know, it's a decision they obviously made during the development process. They want to go high-end on the components and the parts, or they want to go low-end. And Apple's a company that always makes trade-offs to provide a better experience. And in their opinion, the sharper display and the faster processor, and we're told the chip is almost equivalent to the A5 in an iPod Touch or the iPhone 4S or an iPad 2. So they feel the performance in the screen outweighs needing to charge it every night.
Now, your sources are getting their information about what I assume are brand new Apple Watches. Of course, batteries degrade over time, and won't this kill the resale market for Apple Watches? And if the first generation can't be sold because the battery life isn't so great, will people be disincentivized, I guess you could call it, to upgrade to the second generation Apple Watch when it comes out eventually?
I mean, the battery might be replaceable within the Apple Genius Bar or some third-party markets, just like the iPhone and iPad. So I don't think that's really going to be a resale issue. Now, these numbers were Apple's targets as of development in 2014, so last year. So the watch is coming out by end of March. So these numbers could be a bit off, seeing that they probably fixed some things or changed some things up. But again, these are targets. This is what they were shooting for. This is what they wanted. No one knows, or it's to be seen if they're actually going to hit those numbers. That's that's their goals.
I see. Now, you reported that the battery problem is what delayed the Apple Watch from shipping during the holiday season last year. It had been really ideal for them to ship just before Christmas. They didn't, apparently because of the battery issue, probably in part. There may be other issues. Did they fix something that will enable them to be satisfied with battery life by the time they ship in March, or are they just deciding to ship it in March even with the problems?
Right. So we're told that they originally planned to ship the watch by late fall, so November-ish, right before the holidays, as you said. They were having problems with their battery supplier, and they worked those out. They were also having trouble getting the inductive charging to charge up the watch as quickly as they would like, and they actually developed multiple versions of the charging puck that you can see on the screen right now. They have a metal version, which they're showing on their website, and they also develop a plastic version. It's to be seen if there's different performance between those two variations. I don't think so. It's possible the plastic models for the $350 sport version and the metals for the stainless steel and gold models. But yeah, it's likely they worked out all the kinks and are hitting their goals or something close to it. They wouldn't ship unless they did.
Mark Gurman breaks news at 9to5mac.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Mark Gurman. Mark Gurman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. We've got a ton of news coming up, but first I want to tell you about Blue Apron, one of our sponsors today. I love Blue Apron. Blue Apron will send you all the food you need to make delicious gourmet meals in your home in about half an hour or so. These are healthy, real food meals. They don't prepare them for you. You get to do it, and it's a lot of fun because they provide you super easy step-by-step instructions. One of the things that's great about this is that they have some pretty exotic and delicious meals that have ingredients you're not likely to have. For example, I made a dish recently that called for ghee, which is a kind of clarified butter. I don't normally have ghee lying around, but they gave me just the scoop that was necessary for the recipe. I didn't have to go buy a big canister of the stuff and waste all that money. I just got what I needed. There was a Mexican dish, and they gave us those authentic ingredients just right there in the package. It's such a fantastic service. Costs about $10 per person per meal, far cheaper than restaurants and way, way better food than you're likely to find in any restaurant that you go to. They have easy-to-follow, beautifully printed recipe cards, which you can keep and use later, and they teach you how to cook. It's really miraculous. It's the perfect thing if you've got sort of kids in school, if you'd like to travel to rooms, whether it's Airbnb or hotels that have kitchens. You just bring your Blue Apron food along with you, and you'll have literally everything you need to cook delicious meals from scratch. See what's on the menu this week and get your first 2 meals free by going to blueapron.com/twit. That's right, 2 free meals just for going to blueapron.com/twit, and we thank Blue Apron for their support of Tech News Today. Journalist Barrett Brown was sentenced to 5 years and 3 months in prison for transmitting threats, accessory to hacking charges, and interfering with the execution of a search warrant. Brown's activities were related to his association with that anonymous hacking collective. Iain Thomson is a reporter for The Register and joins us now. Welcome to you, Iain.
Thank you very much.
Now, Brown pleaded guilty to somewhat general charges. His lawyers characterize his crimes as, quote, uploading YouTube videos that contain unfortunate statements, efforts to redact sensitive emails that had been procured by hackers, and hiding laptops in a kitchen cabinet. Can you clarify what Barrett Brown actually did that got him into trouble?
Okay, well, it seems the original starting point for all this kicked off in March 2012 when police raided his home. Now, Barrett had always had a good relationship with some of the hackers in the Anonymous Collective, and he'd received some data from them. And he was originally investigated for the Christmas Day 2011 hacking of security firm HB Gary. Now, when they raided his house, they conducted simultaneous raids on he and his mother's house, and they both hid laptops or tried to hide laptops from the police, which is the basis of one of the charges. Dealing with Anonymous and having a knowledge of who was responsible for the Stratfor hack was another issue. And then there was, of course, threatening an FBI official, which just isn't done.
Right. And are you referring to the videos that he made on YouTube?
Yes, yes. He posted a series of 3 videos between about 13 and 15 minutes long. He was obviously completely off his head when he was doing it. And he says, I'm coming off synthetic opiates. I have a former addiction, which I'm trying to deal with, but then starts raving against this officer for interfering with his and his mother's life. Yeah, he's quite clearly not in control when this is going on. He's all over the place, giggling, but he does make threats. against a federal official, and the courts do tend to come down very hard on that.
Now, Brown was also given a fine of $890,000. Does he even remotely have the means, especially now that he's going to be in prison, to pay that fine?
No, not at all. Presumably, if he does get parole, then there'll be a rider attached to that saying that he can't access the internet in any way, or in a very limited way, which would limit his earnings potential anyway. He has said he's going to write an investigative report of the American prison system, which he'll certainly have time to do. But 890,000 is it's an astronomical figure for most people. He's got no chance of paying this off.
Now, you referenced his statement, which was pretty funny and dripping with irony. Can you tell us about this statement? I mean, it's just quite an unusual thing to say for somebody going into prison.
Well, yes, but he's already in prison. He's been in prison for 28 months. The additional 35 that he's going to have to spend in there, he's already accustomed to the system. It's a defiant statement. It's a very funny statement. I hope it works out for him, but he does have a long time in there, and I do fear it will be a hard time.
Yeah, and he talks about how he's kind of thanking them for providing him with free food and clothes while he investigates the prison system. It was quite hilarious. You can't blame him for not having a sense of humor. Now,
well, much better than going in there sniveling. I mean, it's just like go in with your head held high and see what you can do with it.
Exactly. I had the same feeling. Now, how does this sentence? This sentence, I think, obviously seems enormous for the crimes that he pled guilty to, essentially, because of his plea bargain. He was the result of a plea. They dropped a bunch of charges, and I suspect that they were hoping that he might be able to get by with time served. But is this sentence comparable to other sentences for similar such crimes, or are they really making an example out of this guy?
Well, I mean, Jeremy Hammond, the guy that originally cracked Stratfor and sort of started all these shenanigans, he got the maximum possible sentence of 10 years and disbarment from the internet for a significant period after that. When it comes to these kind of hacking events, then judges are very often going for the harshest or the most lengthy or the, as close to as possible. At one point, Brown was facing over 100 years if they'd stuck all the charges on him and he got the maximum sentence for all. Now, obviously, no one was going to suggest that he was going to get that because it would be a ridiculous sentence. But it's a very good way of beating people into doing a plea bargain. And we've seen this kind of tactic before as well.
Now, here's a question you might not be able to answer, and I apologize in advance for that. But my understanding is that some of the data stolen in the initial hack, which I believe was 2011, was credit card data, and that Anonymous used those credit cards to give to charities. Do you know if the charities had to give that money back?
As far as I'm aware, they did. That I think it was a while ago. No, I actually do think I think they had to give that back, and in fact, it wasn't they were forced to. They offered to do it in the first place. I mean, this was central to some of the charges that were brought against Brown, in that he had transferred these numbers and the access codes to use them. But I mean, the charitable donation was a fun bit of prankstering. But in terms of actually getting money to people, I think it had a very limited effect.
Really interesting. Iain Thomson is at theregister.co.uk, and you can follow him on Twitter at Iain Thomson. Iain is spelled I-A-I-N. Thank you so much for joining us, Iain.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss are creating what they're calling the NASDAQ of Bitcoin, the first regulated Bitcoin exchange in the United States. The exchange will be called Gemini, which is Latin for twins, by the way, and will open in a few months if all goes according to plan. Bitcoin exchanges outside the U.S. haven't fared well. Mt. Gox in Japan lost hundreds of millions of dollars and went bankrupt last year. A European exchange called Bitstamp got hacked earlier this month, which contributed to a drop in the price of Bitcoin to below $200, which is about $1,000 under its peak a little over a year ago. Twitter yesterday started showing pop-up messages to its top users asking them to stop sharing Instagram links. Instead, Twitter told them they should post photos directly on Twitter. A Mashable source said that it was part of an educational effort to show celebrities and influencers on the network how to use Twitter's native photo feature. Twitter stopped allowing Instagram photos to show up on tweets 2 years ago, and since then, many users are just sharing the links to Instagram. We've got tons of follow-ups and more in just a second, but let's talk about Gazelle. Gazelle, it wants to buy your used gadgets. And I love Gazelle because it's super, super easy. You just go to the site, indicate what device you have that you'd like to sell to them, show them the condition, just click the button there, and then they'll give you a price. If you like that price, and I think you probably will, they'll send you a box. You just throw the device in the box, and off it goes, and you get paid very, very quickly. Super fast, super easy. There's no reason to have that device lying around. As we told you earlier in the news program, batteries have a tendency to decline over time. That's one of the reasons that the price or the value of your devices is going down all the time. And that's why you want to go to Gazelle right now and lock in your price and sell your device as soon as possible. You get more money for it. They will also sell you an awesome device. So find out what your iPhone is worth. Take a minute and go to gazelle.com to find out. Well, some follow-ups for you. We reported that Uber was banned in Delhi after a passenger was allegedly raped by an Uber driver. Now Uber's back in the city and operating under a regular taxi license, according to the company. A government official told Reuters, however, that Uber is still banned. Delhi is the only city in the world where Uber is a licensed taxi company like any other taxi company. The epic hack of Sony Pictures last year is continuing to cause problems for the company. Sony announced today that it will delay its third-quarter earnings report because its accounting systems are still pretty messed up. We told you recently that Apple was pulling out of Crimea to adhere to U.S. sanctions in the wake of Russia's annexation of the Ukrainian peninsula last year. Now, other companies are complying as well. Google's going to stop Android users from downloading apps on the Google Play Store and also halt the appearance of AdWords and AdSense advertising. PayPal has stopped serving the region too. We've got some product updates for you. Twitter added automatic language translation of any tweet you see that's not in your own language, courtesy of Microsoft's Bing Translator. Apple updated its music application Logic Pro X to version 10.1 today, adding new tools and drummer profiles. Mobile payments platform Braintree now accepts Bitcoin thanks to a partnership with Coinbase. And full disclosure, Braintree is a sometimes sponsor of Tech News Today. Google's previously announced $100 streaming TV Nexus player should arrive in stores Sunday, along with the optional $40 Nexus player gamepad. The popular to-do list app AnyDo arrives for OS X today. The new application integrates with the notification center. And in mergers and acquisitions, Amazon.com has agreed to buy Israeli semiconductor company Apron Labs for as much as $370 million. Why? So they can improve the performance of servers that power Amazon Web Services. In our People in the News segment, Apple CEO Tim Cook doubled his paycheck last year, receiving $9.22 million for the year. But Cook isn't the highest paid executive at Apple, not by a long shot. We learned from regulatory filings that former Burberry chief Angela Arendt received a compensation package valued at $73.4 million to come on board and help sell the Apple Watch. Other Apple executives make a lot more than Cook as well. I think Eddie Q makes north of $50 million a year. 70-year-old J.Crew CEO Millard Dexler will retire from Apple's 8-member board of directors in March after 16 years on the board. We've also got some big numbers for you. Fortune says there are now more than 80 privately held startup companies that have been valued at $1 billion or more by venture capitalists. Just by context, none of today's technology giants, including Google, were ever valued anywhere near $1 billion when they were privately held companies. Microsoft announced Wednesday its Windows 10 beta testing program called Windows Insider and already reports that 170,000 people have already signed up for it. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Donald Fasciana in St. Paul, Minnesota, who posted this photosphere of his office on Google+. Let's check that out. And there it is in all its glory. You can pan around a little bit, see his office. He's got like Tech News Today stuff going on everywhere. There we go. There's the big screen. That's a cool office. Nice photosphere. We love photospheres. How do you watch or listen to TNT? Just record a video or take a picture or do a photosphere of your setup and post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. And use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT and we'll find it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Tech News Today. You can subscribe to Tech News Today on RSS. You can choose your favorite way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. You can also watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC at live.twit.tv or on the app or browser plugin of your choice. Follow us on Twitter. Tech News Today TV is our Twitter name. And you can follow me personally on Twitter at Mike Elgan. That's Elgan. And please send us your thoughts and opinions. Send email to tnt@twit.tv or call 260-TNT-SHOW. And don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name is Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and we will see you Monday.